baseball lifestyle. It's my lifestyle.
Big news this week. Carlos Correa signed with Boris Corp. He had traded agencies. I was reading more about his previous agency. They were doing some shady stuff under the table. Apparently, well, not apparently, it's very obviously illegal for an agency to also own minor league teams, and his previous agency bought 5 of them. So, yes, that was my face also. Yeah.
I actually don't have a problem with that.
Well, apparently it's extremely frowned upon.
Frowned upon is different than that's like counting cards. Counting cards is not illegal; it's just frowned upon.
Yeah, it's very frowned upon.
You know? So
Sure.
when I go and I start counting cards, they just give me the eye, and at some point in time, I have to take my winnings and walk away.
Yeah, pretty much.
You just got to keep it low key. So as long as they don't end up getting multiple Carlos Correas out of owning the minor league teams, I don't know why anybody's upset if they're providing a great opportunity for guys to play. They're marketing the franchise well. They're doing all these things. Like, all these teams own international clubhouses, and they have 11-year-olds that they're developing and training inside of their place, and then all of a sudden they sign them when they're 16 years old. Like, guys.
Oh, I understand the benefits. It's just on the other side of the coin, it's like it's frowned upon by other entities.
By the MLB.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The MLB's teams own these development centers in other countries where they raise and develop these players and pay for their lives, and then all of a sudden sign them on International Signing Day, which we're about to talk about.
Sure.
And you're telling me that it's not okay for an agency to own a minor league team? The rights to the player are already dictated by where they are. This just gives me an opportunity to go and mingle with them a little bit. But what are the chances that player is going to end up being a big deal anyway? I think this is one of those things where I could see it going bad, but also at the same time, people living in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
That's very true. Apparently, Correa's asking price pre-lockout was $330 to $350. Wasn't listed how many years, but that's not really surprising.
No. That's anywhere between 10 and 12.
Yeah, I
right?
have to imagine. Yeah.
I don't think. You tell me if you think I'm wrong.
Okay.
No matter what, I don't think we're going to see 10-year contracts anymore. I think that's one of the things that went off the rails here.
I could see that being one of the things that gets removed after this lockout comes to fruition. I think everyone who got all of that landed before the lockout is going to feel very smart after.
Well, who got the bag big before the lockout?
Seager.
What was his?
I'm on it.
325 or something like that. It was 300 plus. I remember that.
10 years, $325 million.
10, 325.
Limited no trade clause.
So again, like, Correa was looking for something that was better than him, because I would say I'd rather have Correa than Seager.
Yep, I agree.
But my challenge is that I don't understand why you would do it. And this is, again, where we get back and forth to baseball's broken in regards to how they're designing out this stuff. Carlos Correa is a better player than Seager. But because I can't spend more than a certain amount of dollars in a year if I'm a good team, otherwise I end up in luxury tax because I'm not really an uncapped league. I'm a capped league that then provides a way for the discount teams to make actual cash. Because as long as they stay low enough, they make it. I think if we're going to, like, unhinge this whole thing, like, guys have to be able to...
Wander was the other one.
Wander
was 12.
So Wander,
Wander
the Wander
made more
deal
sense,
I get.
yes.
Like, the Wander deals, to me, those deals make sense. Guys get into free agency at 26, 27 and signing 10-year deals.
Yeah.
Like, guys, there's just not that... Like, who was, this past year, the best 37-year-old baseball player in the game? I'll give you a rough idea and a rough hint. Probably was the new pitcher for the New York Mets.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Right? He's roughly my age. So we're in that hopper. So he's a guy who is in that ballpark. How many guys are like him in the league doing what he does? And now he's a pitcher. Pitching is, I feel like, a different beast to an everyday position player who's out there, right?
How old is Albert?
Albert's got to be almost 40. He has to be like 39, 40.
Because, and like, I guess, and this is also another part of the lockout, which I hope comes to fruition, is that
Albert's 42.
Albert's 42. I hope that there's DHs in both leagues.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the easiest point for them to hit on the lockout.
But the players
On the CBA,
I don't know why anybody's fighting it, right? It doesn't make sense on any regard. The challenge becomes that the owners look at this and say, if I want to be competitive, I've got to spend $250 million. And if I want one of the best players in free agency, I have to be willing to pay them for the next decade. And it just doesn't make sense. Like, in no league do you look at it and go, hey, that's a guy who we're going to go and we're going to pay all of that money to. So, like, look at let's use other sports as the example. Could you imagine even Josh Allen? So Josh Allen's a perfect thing, right? I'm a Bills fan. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen signed a 6-year extension for $43 million a year before he was 25. Like, before he started his age 25 season. So we're before that, and they only were giving him a 6-year extension, which amounts to that really means he's signed for 7 years, because this is his last year. Next year's his last year. So he's actually signed for 8 years. That made him an 8-year deal, right? Because they just extended onto his other years.
Right.
So this is a guy before age 25 that they secured the bag for an 8-year run. So when you look at him 24 to 8 years on, he's 32 when it's done. It makes sense when I get to give a guy money during the time that he's going to be great. Mm-hmm. But these 10-year deals, it's like you're going to be 5 years in the back half, you're terrible. Robinson Cano. Like, Robbie still had okay years, but he's got the PED stuff, he's got all that. And Robbie's got to be around 37, 38, right?
I think so.
And Robbie's probably the perfect example of a guy who this is a failed experiment, because he got that big bag and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So, like, Seager, do you think Seager's contract's going to look good
on year 8?
In year 7?
Cano's 39, by the way.
How old?
Cano's 39.
Exactly. Like,
Seager and Correa have to be around, like, roughly the same age, right? Like,
yeah,
late 20s.
They are both 27.
They're both 27. Okay.
But, like, do you think Seager's deal is going to look good when he's 34, 35?
As a shortstop, probably not.
No, like, he's going to have moved off that position.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that we look at. The guy that we were using as the comp last time, David Wright. There was, like, both.
Do you remember how long his deal was? Can you look that up?
David Wright's deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, you're talking about, like, we're going to do away with the 10-year. For the majority of, like, the other, like, quote-unquote long deals that were put together, your top end's, like, 7. So maybe it kind of comes back to earth a little of the 5 to 7 range, and people just either keep that high AOV or AAV, and then like let that be the standard operating for big name players. I don't know.
And that's kind of what I think. Like, you look at the NFL, everybody saw Patrick Mahomes sign that giant ass deal.
Yeah.
And
how many
like,
years
was
that? 13?
He signed for like 12 or 13 years. Right? But, like, so he got that, and everybody's like, oh, no, here it comes. The NFL's about to do it. And then Deshaun Watson signs a $40 million deal. But it was for 4 years.
All right. That's what you got.
David Wright was 7 years, $122 million.
There you go. And at that time, that was like, oh, big money.
But so 7 years was like, hey, we're giving you the bag through most of your good years, right? Like, we're going to give it to you in your late 20s, and you're going to be good. And like, here's the good handshake. Now guys are like, nah, yo, I need more money than David Wright made. I need double his money, because that average annual salary is what, $18 million? Like, so you're talking now. We want $36 million. That's double what David made. Yeah. Not 2 generations ago, 1 generation of player ago. So we're going 1 generation back, and that you've doubled his salary, and now you're also trying to get close to doubling the years. And you're surprised that ownership is like, no, this doesn't make sense. And players are in an uproar. Like, what do you mean it doesn't make sense? I deserve my money. Like, if the owners all decide that no one can look at this from any analytical sense and say that these deals make sense and they're smart. The Wander one, you signed him to a 10-year deal when he was, 21.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense. He'll be in his early 30s. The average annual salary that you're paying him is less than you'll pay him in a decade, when salaries are going to be $45-50 million if the trends continue.
And for him, he gets basically a second crack at free agency money.
And he gets a second. If you are a transcendent generational talent that can play into your late 30s,
yep,
you'll get the bag again because you'll only be 32.
Yep.
Right? Like, let's rebite at the apple. Yeah, you know what? But maybe he won't be making premier 26-year-old superstar money then. Maybe he'll just be making really good starter who's 32 money, and he'll get a 3 to 5 year deal that pays him $35 million a year. Yeah, that is a deal that makes sense across the board for everybody involved.
Yeah.
But this goes back to the chicken and the egg. The reason why players feel like they need to come and take the bite out of the apple this hard is because they don't make any money up until they become a free agent.
Yeah.
You underpay them substantially. Now, one of the things the league did that I don't know if it was in the most recent because I haven't combed through it, was they said, hey, instead of going to arbitration, right, we will give guys money based off of their WAR.
Right.
So we will use your wins against replacement, all these numbers, all the analytics that you guys are then using in contract negotiation. The only reason the league is bringing this up is because this is what players are now using and what teams are now using to figure out what should we pay a guy, right? So when they look at your WAR and they say, okay, we're going to give you $18 million. In arbitration, maybe that guy would have made $8 million. That makes sense for everybody. That I feel like is a good bridge if we're not going to burn it down and rebuild it. The players need to concede that point because for guys who are really good, it makes all the sense in the world. Guys are like, oh, wait, but what if I have a down year? If I have a down year, you're going to pay me less? Yes. Yes, I am.
Michael Conforto would have got Jack
Diddley, right? Like Syndergaard missed the entire year, and he was still eligible for an $18 million deal with the Mets. Almost $19 million deal with the Mets.
Yep.
And he then takes $21 million to leave and go to LA, which now in hindsight looks so foolish. Like, it's almost laughable. Oh, yeah, you know why we weren't talking to you? Because we were negotiating bringing in all of the guys we just brought in. We leveled up our team tremendously, and we thought we had you because you were a diehard New York Met. And then you abandoned ship for $2 million.
Yep.
Guess what? There's higher taxes in California than there even are in New York.
Facts.
So in the end of it, you're making a couple $100,000 more to go to a worse team. Now, he's going to be the guy, right? And he would have been the third best pitcher on the Mets, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he wanted to be the guy. Like, that's cool, your
Sure.
ego.
Fine.
Come out and say that, though. I just left because I wanted to be the guy. But he left because none of this stuff makes sense.
Right. I also think, too, like, players want security, right? And in previous situations, especially of recent, when they get to the end of these, like, long deals, like Corey Seager is, 27, you said?
Yep.
If he doesn't want to retire at age 37, in the way the game is now, it's hard for him to find a contract that's going to pay him well. Like you get like Dallas Keuchel or Craig Kimbrell that didn't sign until June because nobody wants to actually pay them and give them like what they're worth, quote unquote. And especially we have no idea what it's going to look like after this lockout's over.
Well, that's also attached to the fact that with the Keuchel situation, you had to give up a first-round pick if you signed him, right? Which keeps him from signing with another team, which is another thing where the team holds control. So again, I go back in time and I say, when you look at the indentured servitude that baseball players have, how can the Players Association from an on-field perspective say that they've done the right thing by the players? Everything is lined up. Why would smart business people look at what you designed and not take advantage of it from their side?
For sure. That's the thing. It's like at the end of out of their careers, they could say, "Cool, we're done with you. I'm gonna go pay that guy $500,000 a year instead of you $15 to play for us."
And that's the Villar situation.
Yep.
But then that comes back to why are guys not getting brought up? Because they're trying to hold on to guys so that they get the ages 25 through 32.
Yep.
Right? I'd rather have 24, 25-year-old Pete Alonso hit 50 home runs as rookie and then be my best player for 7 years. And then when he's done, cool, I don't have to give you $1. I'll go find the next guy that has been held down in the minor leagues. And this is where everything is broken, where I like the idea of WAR because I think it opens up that if you are a transcendent player, you get the bag earlier, right?
Yep.
So, cool. I think that, like, then there's cool things that we could put in. If you make an all-star team, but for your, like, rookie contract is up, you there's a 2-year window. You're now immediately 2 years. That's it. That's all you got left. So if I'm a 21-year-old Fernando Tatis, I'm Juan Soto. Like Juan Soto, next year, free agent. Like he'd be done. Like this year, actually. This year, he'd be done if we went by those rules.
Yeah.
He'd be a free agent right now. and you guys would have had the chance to pay him beforehand, and you didn't. Guess what? He gets to walk. Cool. You want to keep the first-round pick on that? Fine. That I understand.
What is he? 2 years from now, he's a free agent?
2 years from
2
now.
years?
2 full seasons more before he gets to go and become a free agent.
Right.
Could you imagine what he'd get paid based off of WAR if this thing were in place? If it was based off of like comparable to everybody else based off of WAR, Juan Soto this year through arbitration, quote unquote, would make $35 million.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So like, guys, why is that a bad thing? The best player in the game would be making money. He'd secure the bag. Yeah, would it be guaranteed? No. But we're talking about if we're going based off of all that stuff. So like, that's one of those things that like, it seems like the Players Association is fighting a battle just to fight, and they don't want to concede that that's a smart idea, or maybe they have privately, and just haven't come out and said it yet publicly. But I love that idea.
But as of this moment, there's no progress or any like news to say that they have done anything like that.
I think there's been progress.
I don't know.
Based off of people that we know and their unavailability this week.
Sure.
I would say that there's been a lot more discussions than people think.
Well, I hope there are.
I think last Thursday was like, hey, we're going to publicly tell everybody that we had a conversation. We'll talk about it like that, but then we're going to go back behind the scenes and we're going to craft some ideas and we're going to do some things. Right, and we'll throw something else back, and we'll kind of go back and forth on some touch points. But it's a shame. But during all of that, teams don't stop.
Baseball lifestyle, it's my lifestyle.